Okay, so a few people were asking about how I painted my Emperor's Children. That's a project that I have going on right now, so they're not finished. But I thought I might make a quick video of some of the end-to-end process on a new unit that I'm doing. So the unit I'm going to do are the Flawless Blades. I'm going to do 3 of these guys and maybe a Lord Cacophonist as well. In terms of the starting point, so I've assembled the bulk of the model, but I have attached them to the base just with a bit of blue tack so I can access the underside a little bit more easily. And the backpacks I have blue tacked on as well. And given that their arms are spread fairly wide open, there's no need for me to do those as a sub-assembly, which I've done on the Noise Marines. So it's pretty much good to go as it is right now. So these guys are now ready for spray painting. I've taken their backpacks off because I do a different process for the backpacks that I will show you separately. And on the back of them, I've just put a little bit of blue tack to cover up the stub that attaches to the backpack to make it easier to glue it after the fact so I don't get any paint on it. But otherwise, I'm just going to use a completely generic black primer spray that I got from a local car shop. Nothing too fancy. So I've given them a quick once over with the black, very light coat just to give something for the regular paint to attach to, nothing too complicated. Now, because I'm going to be doing fairly bright colors on these models, I don't just use black primer. After the black primer has dried, I give a quick top-down spray of a light gray primer. You could use any kind of pale color to get it started, but the working up from black just by itself is a bit much. So this is just a way of getting some of the volumes, keeping the shade in the recesses, but having an easier base to work from for the rest of the colors. So with the priming done, I'm going to move on to the airbrushing stage, and the 3 main colors I'm going to be using are a kind of triad here from the Vallejo Game Air range. So 72715 is hexed like in a kind of dark purple. 72714 is Warlord purple, a kind of magenta type color. And then 72713 is squid pink. The same colors are available in brush paint versions, which I also have for the brush painting stage. But these are the ones that I'll be airbrushing. And because I have found pink to be challenging to use with an airbrush, I'm going to start with that to see if I can build up that color first and then cut back in with the others. When I mix the thinner in first, usually it comes out a little bit too liquidy. So I try to use a bit of scrap paper on the side, maybe a test fire on the base, just to see how it is going to appear on the model. Now with the pink, I often find it can come out a little bit chalky at first. It takes a little bit of time to build up the saturation. So we'll give it a whirl here and see how I get on. Not easy doing this one-handed while holding a phone, but we'll do our best. I needed to use both hands in the end to be able to manipulate the model and get some of the prominent points, some of the areas that stick out, edges and so on. And at this stage, I think it's important to note that it will require me to go back in with the colors a couple of times. So this isn't really a speed painting technique. I've tried to make it as quick as I can to achieve the result that I'm looking for, but it will require a couple of goes. So you can see here the broad approach I've taken of focusing on the high points, edges, just being able to show the volumes. Definitely don't need to cover the whole model. You can see from the underside lots of black and grey left to show. And it took 2 quick passes to get that. So one just to get the volumes down with a light bit of coverage, but it does tend to be quite chalky when that happens. And then a second go just to actually make the pink saturate a little bit more so it looks more like pink and a little bit less grey. The underside of the model then gives us areas of dark grey and black where we should focus the attention of the dark purple color, the hexed lichen. And it's going to end up with a pretty stark look, but then the mid-tone will help to blend that out. And you can see here that the darkened areas have now been made much more purple from a bottom-up angle. But from the top down, you don't really see very much of it. And we're then going to do the mid-tones to try and bridge the gap between the pink and the purple, and then cut back into it as we see fit. So the trick with the magenta color, the Warlord purple, is to thin it down quite a bit and spray from a bit further away so you can coat the entire model in it. And the effect of that is to tint everything somewhat with that magenta. So the pink's basically all gone, and the purple kind of now has this slight magenta tone to it. And that's going to give us this transition from the darker to the mid-tone. And now we're going to cut back in with the pink on top to give the highlight. And the reason for doing the pink first is to simply allow the magenta to sit on top of that so that the colors transition nicely. So there's no unfortunate shortcut there. So by cutting back in with the pink on top, that allows us to reclaim some of the highlights, but still have these nice transitions between the purple, the magenta, and the pink. If this isn't complete by itself, it'll need to then be followed up by a little bit of shading and highlighting by hand. But this gets us a good basis to start from. The next step is to use Druki Violet to do the edges around the trim and other details so that you get an even darker area to highlight the shapes of the overall model, but also to increase the contrast beyond the darkest parts that you have from the original spray. You can see here how I've used the wash from the actual trim and just spilled a tiny little bit of it down into the actual recess to get that really neat line around the edge. I'll be able to neaten that up then because I'm going to be painting the trim by hand in gold anyway. Similarly there you can see on the leg trim, around the wrist, the pauldrons, even on the face, and using it similarly around the chest.